Yeah, so like we've been starting with the Indian Constitution, right? What all we have completed till now? Yes. So yesterday we have started the evolution of Constitution, how the Constitution has, evolved, and the origin lies in the British rule in India, right? So we have seen how the various act, through the various act, the British government started regulating the Indian system or Indian administration. So starting from the Regulating Act 1773, we have done till 1909 we have done, right? So as I told you, the 1909, it came, the act came in the background of the Swadeshi movement, right? And what was the reason for partitioning Bengal? What was the reason? What did I say yesterday? What was the reason why Bengal was partitioned? That led to Swadeshi movement, right? So what was the reason? From the British angle, what was the reason and what was the real reason? Yes? No, that was the Swadeshi movement. I am talking about what was the reason for partitioning Bengal. Right, Swadeshi movement came in the backdrop of partitioning of Bengal. So what was the reason? What was the official reason from the Britishers? That Bengal is a very huge state and for more convenient administration, we need to partition it. That was their official stand, the Britishers. But the real was what? They wanted to weaken nationalism, right? They wanted to weaken nationalism and also wanted to create a divide between Hindus and Muslims. They wanted that the East Bengal, which is currently the Bangladesh, the Dhaka would become a seat of Muslim nationalism, right? Because they always has created a feeling among the Indians that INC, the Indian National Congress, is a Hindu body, though it was a secular body, right? It was a secular body. There were many Muslims and many Christians also. People from all faith joined Indian National Congress, isn't it? In fact, the first chairman of the Indian National Congress or first president of the Indian National Congress was a W.C. Banerjee. He was a Christian, isn't it? And then Dada Bhai Naroji, he was a Parsi. Badruddin Tayyabji, he was a Muslim. So first, if you see first, second, third president of INC, none of them, they were Hindu, isn't it? So it was only the Britishers which created such kind of a feeling because they wanted to rule, divide and rule, right? So under that backdrop, 1919 Council Act 1919 has come. Now, we have already discussed the provision of 1909 Act, Council Act, separate electorate. One was the major provision. Apart from that, they had also included Indians in the Viceroy Executive Council, right? Satyendranath Sinha was the first law member. He was being given the law department. Now let's look into 1919, Government of India Act 1919. Now from here, I'll just give you a little background how this Government of India Act 1919 has come. So the background, what was the background for Government of India Act 1919 and why it was called as Government of India Act? Till now, we are being seeing no act was called as Government of India Act. Earlier it was called as Regulating Act, then Council Act, isn't it? Charter Act, then Council Act, and then now we are moving towards Government of India. Because in 1913, 14, the First World War started, right? And they wanted cooperation of Indians. They wanted cooperation of Indian. So the Home Rule movement, 1916, the Home Rule movement started, headed by Tilak and Annie Besant. They wanted a similar kind of rule what is given to the Ireland. Ireland was also a kind of a dominion of England and also Australia. So there was some kind of home rule was given, not a complete independence, but some sort of in the internal matter, the people of that country would rule. So on the similar line, on the Ireland line, even Indian demanded 1916. Anyway, that was a period of World War. So in 1916, Home Rule Movement. 1917, the Britishers made a declaration. Montague, it is also called 1919 Act, also called as Chelmsford Reform. Montague was the Secretary of the State, and Chelmsford, Lord Chelmsford was the Viceroy, right? So Lord Chelmsford made the declaration that in 1917, after the Home Rule movement, that the future course of the British government would be to bring self-rule in India, or responsible government, responsible. They made the declaration in 1917 that the British, they are aiming to bring responsible government in India, that was, so they made the declaration. So you see, you always, if you remember the background, then it will be easy for you to relate with the provision of the act, right? You will be able to easily relate, okay, why they have mentioned these things in this particular act, because it was all the reactions, right? Whatever was contained in 1909 Act, it was basically the reactions to the partition movement and the Swadeshi movement, right? They wanted to create a more wedge between Hindus and Muslims, so separate electorate was done. And then 1919 Act, whatever the provision is there, it is against the background of the Home Rule movement, because there was a strong demand that we want some kind of a self-rule. We want a freedom in the internal matter. External matter, okay, fine, you can take care, but internally we want to rule as per we want. Just like in Ireland, you have given some kind of freedom. So, okay, fine, this they wanted anyway the cooperation of Indians, right? And they have already seen how the Swadeshi movement and all. So, they wanted to placate Indians. So, with that, they made a declaration that, okay, in 2017 itself, that, okay, fine, we are moving towards responsible government. So, after that, the Government of India Act 1919 came, right? So, now the Government of India Act, isn't it? So, that is what the significance, because they were moving towards, they declared that we are moving towards responsible government. Slowly, we will give you the power. Internal matter, you decide. Slowly, we will give it. So, under this backdrop, under initial list. So, now how many subjects we have? Tell me. How many subjects now we have? See, now onwards, you should be able to compare, because we have taken inspired from 1919 Act and more particularly from 1935 Act. At the provinces by 1919 Act, then that is correct. Okay. So, provincial subjects were divided into two parts, transferred and reserved, and this resulted in anomaly and problems, and this entire process is called diarchy, and that's why this experiment was not successful. It is bound to fail. It is bound to fail, right? So though they told, okay, we are moving towards responsible government, so they have introduced a responsible government, isn't it? Because at least transferred subject, the minister would be responsible to the provincial legislature, right? So some form of responsible government was introduced, though it was not fully responsible, but some form, right? Then what are the other important features of this act? Bicameralism and direct elections was introduced. Bicameralism, what do you mean by bicameralism? So till now there was only central legislative council, right? It was bifurcated into lower house and upper house. Upper house, council of states. It was called as upper house, council of state, and lower house, representation of people. Representation of people. So just like you have lower house, now it is Lok Sabha, and you have upper house, which is Rajya Sabha or Council of States, right? So bicameralism was introduced at a center. Remember that. Then direct election. So we have seen in 1892 only some form of election happened, and it was indirect in nature. Even 1909 they introduced separate electorate, but they have not mentioned about anything direct or indirect elections, right? They mention, because anyway, you know, immediately after 1909, after 2-3 years, World War happened, right? So obviously 1909 Act could not perform so well because of the war situation and all. Then they introduced this time direct election, and the majority of the members, they were elected by direct elections. Means indirect election was also there, nomination was also there, but okay, they introduced direct election. Majority of the members direct election, but other members were also inducted through indirect election or through nominations, right? So direct elections came, and this direct election also, direct election which was introduced, which was based on certain qualification of the voter, qualification of the voters. It was not like universal, like now we have universal adult franchise, isn't it? Is anybody who have reached 18 years of age and not barred by any law, they are eligible to vote, right? And they are registered as a voter, they are eligible, right? But this was not the case. They have mentioned certain qualification like property, how much property you have, what is your education. On that basis, they were qualified voters. So not everybody, it was not universal adult franchise, right? So direct election were introduced, but the voter has to be qualified, right? Then the next point, it required 3 of the 6 members of the Viceroy Executive Council other than Commander-in-Chief to be Indian. So obviously, since they told that we are moving towards responsible government, so they should induct more and more Indians, isn't it? So in 1909 we have seen 1 person was inducted, but now they said what? 3 of the 6 members of the Viceroy Executive Council will be Indian, but Commander-in-Chief will always be a Britisher. Okay, because army, you know, it was also a military and army rule in India. British rule was basically military or army rule. So obviously military and army, they wanted to keep in their hand. Then Sikh, Indian Christian, Anglo-Indians, Europeans were given separate electorate. You see, now they further divided the society. In 1909 Act, separate electorate they gave to the Muslims, right? They divided the Hindus and Muslims. But now they wanted to further fragment the country, fragmentation on religious line. right? So now they said Sikh, because obviously when they given to the Muslims, the Sikh would also demand, everybody will start demanding, right? So they further given separate electorate to Sikh, Christians, Anglo-Indians, Sikh. These all are under minorities, right? Sikh people, they're Indian Christian. Who are Anglo-Indians? Who are Anglo-Indians? One of the parents would be Indian, right? One of the parents would be either Britishers or European, whatever. Another parents has to be either father or mother Indian, right? So those are called Anglo-Indians. So they given separate electorate. Sikh means only Sikh will vote for the Sikh candidate. Christian means only the Indian Christian will vote for the Indian Christian candidate. Anglo-Indian means only Anglo-Indian will vote for the Anglo-Indian candidate, like that, right? And Europeans, separate electorate were given. Franchise was limited, that's what I already discussed. The voters were qualified on the basis of property, how much tax they were paying, how much educated they were there, on that basis, right? Then High Commissioners for Indian was set up in London, and some of the function what was being taken by the Secretary of State was given to whom? High Commissioner, right? Just they have created one specific office. So some of the functions which was been done by the Secretary of State was transferred to this High Commissioner for India in London, and it was set up again in London, not in India, right? Another important feature was Central Public Service Commission was set up. In 1919, they talked about the Central Public Service Commission, and finally it was set up in 1926 for recruiting the civil servant. So we have seen in 1853, see, to have a very good understanding, what I keep on telling, you have to interlink the present and past. So we have seen in 1853 when open competition was announced and Lord Macaulay committee was set up. We said, okay, fine, the competition, there will be the open competition and it will be held in London, right? So now obviously they demanded more and more Indians. There were so many commissions and committee after Macaulay commission which suggested that now more and more Indians to be inducted into civil service. And by 1935 they said there should be 50-50 ratio, 50% European, 50% Indian, like that they said. So for that, obviously, you know, these many people, they can't go to London, isn't it? It is not easy. So they established a recruiting agency called Central Public Service Commission in 1926. And the provision was mentioned in which act? 1919 Act, right? Later on in 1926, it was set up. And finally, it became UPSC. After independence, the same body became UPSC. And the Central Public Service Commission was set up, you know where? Allahabad. Allahabad, which is now Prayagraj. Prayagraj. Later on, it shifted to Delhi. It became Federal Public Service Commission, and then after independence, UPSC. Right? So see, these things are not given in the book. These are additional information. These are additional information. So that's why try to note it down. So, and first chairman, who was the first chairman of the Central Public Service Commission? Sir Ross Barker. He was the first chairman of the Central Public Service Commission. Okay. So Central Public Commission was set up in 1926 for recruiting the civil servant. Then another important feature, provincial budget and central budget were separated. Provincial budget and central budget were provincial budgets and central budgets were separated, and that authorized the provincial legislature to enact their own budget. So obviously now since they are moving towards giving more and more autonomy, particularly to the provinces, so they wanted, okay fine, the provincial government, they should formulate their own budget. So you can see from centralization we are moving towards decentralization, isn't it or not? Because now more power is given, they are giving to the provincial governments, means more decentralization. This all reflects what? Decentralization. The peak of centralization we have seen, it was in 1833 when Governor General of Bengal became Governor General of India, right? There was too much of centralization. Later on, after 1857, the war happened, and after that, whatever the act came into being, slowly and slowly they are moving towards decentralization, slowly. And this is a very good step. 1919 Act was a good step towards decentralization, because now provincials were given more and more power and autonomy, right? Autonomy means freedom, right? Free, you are free to do your work, right? Autonomy, freedom. Clear till here? Then it provided for the appointment of a statutory commission. Now in the 1919 Act only, they mentioned that after 20 years, there should be a statutory commissions, and they will signify, or they will talk about how Government of India Act 1919 have means, or how it has performed. Right, how it has performed. So for that they said that we will bring a statutory commission to see that how Government of India Act 1919 has performed. I hope till here you got the clarity. So let's revise 1919 Act. It came under the backdrop of the Home Rule movement, demand of the Home Rule movement. In 1917 itself, the Britishers said, okay fine, we will move towards the responsible government. And then 1919, they brought the act, which is also called Montague-Chelmsford reforms, right? Because they are bringing the reforms. According to them, they are bringing the reforms. And anyway, there's some reforms definitely has come into being. So it divided the central and provincial subject. We are moving towards giving more autonomy to the provinces. Provincial subjects were divided into two parts, transferred and reserved, and the scheme of government was called diarchy, dual rule. Then bicameralism at the center, two house. Direct election was introduced. It also required the 3 of the 6 members to be the Indian in the Viceroy Executive Council, right? So more and more Indianization, more and more inclusion of Indians in administration, right? Then, and be very particular, Commander-in-Chief, the position will not be given to Indians, right? Then it further divided the society by providing more separate electorate to the other section of the society like Sikh, Indian Christians, Anglo-Indians, Europeans, right? Then the franchise was very limited. It was based on property, education, and how much tax the voters are paying. On that basis, the voter list will be made. High Commissioner for India in London, it was created, which transferred some of the function of Secretary of State to this office, right? Then next important point is Central Public Service Commission was announced, which was later set up in 1926, right? Then provincial budgets and central budget were separated, and it also provided for statutory commission to look into that how the Government of India Act 1919 has performed. So after this 1919 Act, excuse me, they had provided that one statutory commission will come, right? So in 1927, 1927, so 2 years before only, actually it should be 1929, but 2 years before only it came, right? It was said that after 10 years they will bring a statutory commission. So Simon Commission was there in 1927, and but it was so much vehemently opposed. Yes, a few more things I would talk about the history here. After this 1919 Act came into being, obviously people were not satisfied. The Congress were also not satisfied because it did not talk about any home rule or dominion rule, right? Dominion status. They did not, they brought some reforms, but it did not satisfy the Indian National Congress. And then this Rowlatt Act came, Rowlatt Act, and Rowlatt Act was a very draconian role. The British can arrest anybody without warrant and they can seize property like that if they feel that this person was involved in some kind of anti-government activity. This was a seditious law, right? And it was a very draconian law, very harsh law. So to protest about this Rowlatt Act in Jallianwala Bagh, people, they assembled there and then they were all killed, right? Because the British said that they assembled there against the prohibitory orders. There was a prohibitory order that nobody should assemble in any public place because they wanted very strict. Civil liberties were totally cut off. And they were very, very strict that no assembly of people will be there. But people were not knowing in Punjab, that particular area, they were not knowing, and they gathered in that Jallianwala Bagh. And this British officer killed all these people. They fired almost all people, very few people, if at all, were alive. So because of Rowlatt Act and excess or tragedy, Jallianwala Bagh tragedy, non-cooperation movement was brought. And there was one Khilafat issue also, because this Muslim people, they were not very happy the way Britishers treated Turkey. Turkey was said to be a religious place for the Muslims. So they were not happy the way Turkey was treated. So there was a Khilafat movement. The Muslim formed the Khilafat movement. So clubbing this Khilafat movement and Jallianwala Bagh tragedy issues, Mahatma Gandhi launched non-cooperation movement. 1920. And then in 1922 it was called off, because you will study in more detail, because of the Chaura Chauri incident where some British people, they were being killed in the jail, a jail was burned and some people, they died. So obviously Mahatma Gandhi didn't like the violence and he called off. So this was 1922. Then in 1927 the Simon Commission came and it was highly protested. Why it was highly protested? Because all white people, there was no Indians, all white people. So that's why it was protested. And one of the major incident happened in this was Lala Lajpat Rai, one of the very important freedom fighter. He died because of the lathi charge. He had sustained injuries because of that. So he died. And later on there was civil disobedience movement. 1930 civil disobedience movement came. Now in 1928, as I said you, there was lot of protest, and 1928 Lala Lajpat Rai died. In the same year, these Britishers people, they wanted to pacify the Indians because that was a big loss, a loss of Lajpat Rai. The whole country was very much shocked and they were very much against the Britishers. So the Britishers said, they challenged. They said, okay, fine. You are not happy with the Simon Commission? We are challenging you. You formulate the constitution. Because they knew that country is divided. Whatever the INC will bring, it will probably not be accepted by the Muslim League. They knew it. So that's why they told, okay, fine, we are challenging you if you can come to any kind of conclusion and form any constitution. So in 1928, Motilal Nehru report came. Motilal Nehru was the father of Jawaharlal Nehru. Nehru report, that is called as Nehru report came. And as the Britisher has imagined it, Muslim League was not satisfied with the Nehru report. And against the Nehru report, Jinnah, Muhammad Ali Jinnah, all of you know Jinnah, right? He was the head of the Muslim League. He came up with 14 points. 14 points. Jinnah 14 points. So obviously, nothing could come out because, he brought something else, Nehru report something else. So Britishers were quite true that you guys cannot bring any kind of consensus because you guys are divided. So let's the Britishers do the job, right? They told that let's the Britishers do the job. So anyway, Simon Commission came and they have suggested certain things. What they suggested? It suggested its report in 1930 and recommended abolition of diarchy, which was there in 1919 Act. So it was not very functional, not useful. They said abolish diarchy, extension of responsible government in the provinces. So they told make the provinces more responsible government and abolish diarchy, establishment of Federation of British India and princely states, and continuation of communal electorate. They said okay, communal electorate is fine. For them it was fine because it was giving them chance to further their rule. So this is how they have recommended, and you will see in 1935 Act almost all the provisions were there. All these provisions, whatever talked by the Simon Commission. 1935 Act, it did try to bring federation, it did abolish diarchy, it did brought provincial autonomy. So whatever they have recommended, almost everything was included in 1935 Act. Then on the basis of this Simon Committee, round table conference was convened. So I told you in 1930 there was a civil disobedience movement was going on. So there were three round of conference happened. The first conference, the Congress did not participate because there was a civil disobedience movement. Second round, they participated. Third round, again they did not participate, right? In the second round they participated, but they were not happy with that and they came back, and third round they did not participate. So if the question comes, that is also a part of your history. In history you will be studying more detailed. So in which of the round table conference the Congress participated? First, second or third? Second, only second. First it did not, third it did not. And in second also when they participated, they were not happy with that. They participated but they just came out. They were not happy. Yes. Now in this context, again one more piece of information I will tell you. 1928 the Motilal Nehru report came, right? But yes, nothing could come out more. In 1929 Lahore session. In Lahore session 1929, this people, because Motilal Nehru report was about the dominion status, right? Dominion status. But the young people of the Congress like Jawaharlal Nehru, Subhash Chandra Bose, they were not happy with the dominion status. They said, no, why dominion status? We want complete independence. We want Purna Swaraj. And anyway, Simon Commission also they were not happy with, like they said, it is, the Britishers will make policies for us. So that's why they were not happy. They were not happy with the Simon Commission. Okay, fine, Motilal Nehru report came, and finally it was not accepted by the Muslim League, but on an average, the Congress accepted it. The Congress accepted it, but the Congress, particularly the young generation, they were not happy with the dominion status. They said, we want Purna Swaraj, full independence. So in the Lahore session 1929, they passed Purna Swaraj, right? Purna Swaraj was passed in the Lahore session. That's why in 1930, 26th January 1930 was observed as the Purna Swaraj Day, and national flag was hoisted on the bank of river Ravi in Lahore. National flag was hoisted where? In Lahore, on the bank of river Ravi. Lahore is on the bank of river Ravi. And Purna Swaraj was passed, the resolution was passed in Lahore session only in 26th January 1930. Purna Swaraj Day was observed and national flag was hoisted in Lahore. Okay, so these piece of information you will get in history, but not in your polity. But then I wanted to give you the background. So we have seen that Purna Swaraj happened, then civil disobedience movement 1930, first, second, third, 3 round table of conference 1900, it was 30, 31 and 32, like that, 3 years. Then what happened? 1932, as I told you that 1931 when the Congress participated in the second round table conference, they were not happy and Gandhi came back frustrated from the conference. And again he wanted to launch civil disobedience movement, but then Britishers jailed him and put it in the Yarwada jail in Pune. Yarwada jail in Pune. ठीक है, he was Yarwada jail in Pune, he was put there. And 1932, there was communal award, that is called as communal award. What is this communal award? It was brought by Ramsay MacDonald. He was the British Prime Minister. So in the communal award, what is basically separate electorate was given. We have seen to the Muslims it was already given. Later on Sikh and Christians were also given. Now they wanted to divide even the Hindu society. They have divided on the religious ground, other society, right? The other aspect of the society. Now even they wanted to divide the Hindu society by giving separate electorate. So communal award was basically for the separate electorate. It was for the separate electorate. Communal award was for the separate electorate in 1932. So Gandhi was very much depressed with that because they wanted to get separate electorate to whom? Depressed class. Depressed class means your scheduled caste. Right? So they wanted to divide even Hindu society. Means only scheduled caste people will vote for scheduled caste only. So he was like very much against. He told already they have divided on religious ground. Now they are dividing on the caste ground also. Isn't it? Like total fragmentation of the society. So Gandhi went to fast unto death. He told, no, I will not accept this communal award. This is very, very regressive. So Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, who was the leader of the scheduled caste, he wanted a separate electorate because the scheduled caste, they have faced a lot of discrimination. So obviously they were not happy to be with Hindu society, right? Why they would be in the Hindu society when they are facing a lot of discrimination, untouchability, then all. So obviously he wanted, yes, we want a separate electorate. We don't want to be the part of the Hindu society. We will always remain a backward. So Gandhiji said, no, this is very, very division kind of thing. Once you are away from the Hindu society, you will always remain untouchable. You will always remain untouchable. Like that, he said to Ambedkar. And he said, we will give you reservations. Though Ambedkar said, no, if we don't get separate electorate, how people from our community will get representation? No Hindu will choose a scheduled caste as their political leader. So Gandhi said, okay, we don't take the separate electorate. Within this system only, we will give you reservation. And we'll give you reservation more than your number. If it is 10% people, you belong to 10% people, we'll give you 15% reservation. But we'll give you more reservation, but please don't go for separate electorate. Right? We'll give you reservations. So, okay, fine. Dr. Ambedkar ji, he accepted the viewpoint of Gandhi and it was called as Pune Pact. Pune Pact. Okay? Pune Pact. So, they said, okay, we don't want separate electorate for the depressed class. We will go for the reservations. This was called as what? Pune Pact between Gandhi and Ambedkar. Right? Understood? So, in place of the separate electorate, reservations was given to the depressed class. And this was called as Pune Act 1932. So, these piece of informations are again very important for your prelims. They may ask you, Pune Pact between whom, why it was, against what? So, it was against communal award. So, you got the point. So, we got Pune Pact till here. So, 1935, on the basis of the recommendation of Simon Commission and 3 round table conference, Government of India Act 1935 came. So, what are the important? Again, this act is very important from the prelims point of view and even from the mains point of view. Because they have already asked in mains. Major features of Government of India Act 1935. In mains they have asked, prelims also they had asked. So, it's very important from the prelims point of view as well as mains point of view. So, Government of India Act 1935, the background already we have discussed. Now, let's look into the provisions. So, it brought all India Federation consisting of provinces and princely state. So, what do you mean by federation or federal? What do you mean by federation? Where the power will be divided. Federation means where the power will be divided between center and state, right? So, already you see provincial list and state list was already there in the 1919 Act. So, now see that was there for the British provinces. Provincial list and central list was for the British provinces, not for the princely state. Now, all India Federation, what they are saying? British provinces and even princely states should join the federation. Princely state should also. So, now they wanted to bring even the princely state into a proper systematic administration. Earlier, princely state, they were free in their internal matters. So, now they wanted that the princely state also should join the democratic setup. In the princely state, it was a monarchical setup, isn't it? So now they wanted that princely state should join the administration. Anyway, internal autonomy will be given to the state. So the princely state will also have the autonomy. The only thing is that, yes, they should come and join. Because, see, these British provinces, no, they were better developed. But princely state, they were lagging behind. Because in the British provinces, what happened? At least there was lot of nationalism was mostly in the British provinces. Wherever you see nationalism and all, INC worked, they protested and all, it was mostly in the British provinces. Elections and all, so obviously it was benefited. The British provinces benefited. Princely state did not benefit. It remained backward. So now they wanted that princely state should also join the federation and some kind of uniformity, systematic role should be there. Right? So they wanted an all India federation consisting of the British provinces and princely states. And the power will be divided between center and state. And for that, three lists they told. Federal list for center with 59 items, provincial list for the provinces with 54 items, and concurrent list for both center and state, 36 items. So basically these lists are what? These are the items on which the particular government can legislate. So central list means only center will legislate on those items, isn't it? Means parliament will legislate. State list or provincial list means only state will or provinces will legislate on those items, whatever is mentioned. So now also we have three lists, isn't it? Now we have three lists or not? You have the union list, you have the state list, you have the concurrent list. What are the numbers? Union list 1907, state list it is 61, and concurrent list it is 52. Originally it was 66, but later on became 61 because 5 items was transferred to the concurrent list. Earlier concurrent list was 47, but 5 items was transferred from state list to concurrent list by 42nd amendment. Anyway, these things we will do in detail later on. That 5 items was transferred to the concurrent list. So now you see, now you can relate with the Indian constitution. Lot of things. We are a federal country, isn't it? Inspired from 1935 Act. Then these list inspired from 1935 Act. Now also we have 3 lists. Obviously the number of the items have changed, but then 3 list is still there. Residuary power. Residuary power, currently it is mentioned under Article 248 of the Indian Constitution. Now what is residuary power? Residuary power is whatever item not mentioned in any of these lists. Whatever the item not mentioned in any of this list, it will go to the whom? To the Viceroy. It will go to the Viceroy. Residuary power. Anything which is not mentioned in any of these 3 lists, those power or on those items, it will go to the Viceroy. ठीक है? Anything new, or you can say miscellaneous, it will go to whom? To the Viceroy. That is called residuary power. But currently in India, it is mentioned under Article 248 of the Indian Constitution, and it is with whom? It is with the center. Currently the residuary power is with whom? Center, not with the state. Okay, got it? Then it abolished diarchy in the provinces. It abolished diarchy in the provinces. It abolished diarchy in the provinces and replaced with what? Provincial autonomy. This is very important feature of Government of India Act 1935. Very important. Provincial autonomy. So 1919 only, they introduced diarchy. They wanted to give more power to the provinces. But diarchy did not work so well. It failed. So it was scrapped. And now you will see we are truly moving towards responsible government. So they told, okay, fine, in the provinces, provincial autonomy will be given. Means whatever the number of item is mentioned in the state list or provincial list, 54 items. The provinces will legislate on that. And there was no dual scheme or dual government, single autonomous government. All portfolio or everything will be decided by the election. The way now it is functioning, the election will happen, on that basis they will form the government, and the government will be responsible to the provincial legislature. Governor will act on the advice of the minister. The same way now it is the way it is happening, right? The governor will act on the advice of the council of minister headed by chief minister, right? Similar thing it was given. What we have currently, provincial autonomy, very important features. But paradoxically, hierarchy was introduced at the center. Now, again, why it was introduced, you will ask, ma'am, it failed in provinces. Then why it was introduced at the center? See, center, there was no responsible government. They introduced election, election, all these things they introduced were in the provinces, right? Central government was an autocratic government only. So what wanted? They said, okay, fine, provinces, so they made it fully autonomous. Now center, they said, okay, let at the central government also introduce some kind of responsible government. Because at the center there was no responsible government, entire power in the viceroy. Entire power in the viceroy. So at the center there was not much kind of any responsible government. So to introduce a responsible gradual, not all of a sudden, they said gradually they wanted to introduce diarchy. So at least in diarchy what will happen, that okay, some part what is there in the transferred list, at least for these things the minister will be responsible to the legislature or the parliament, isn't it? So at least some form of responsibility will come or not, because the ministers will be there, they will be answerable. Okay, fine, finance and all was in the viceroy hand, but still some form of a kind of experimentation, you can say, some form of responsible government will be there, right? Because similar way, that is how they have introduced in the provinces first. Then they told, no, it's not working so well, but okay, fine, at least the minister got the idea how to be answerable, how to run the departments, isn't it? They got an idea how the responsible, how I have to face questions, how I have to provide the answers. At least they got this kind of experience, right? Then they moved to the provincial autonomy, complete autonomy. At the center, similar way, they wanted to introduce the diarchy. But anyway, it never came into being. It never came into being. The reason being, 1935 this act came, and in 1939 what happened? Again Second World War started. So diarchy provision did not come into being. Federation also did not come into being. Why it did not come into being? Because princely state did not join. So though they mentioned in Government of India Act 1935 All India Federation, but finally federation did not work out. Why? Because princely state did not join. Diarchy also did not, this diarchy at the center though mentioned, but it did not come into being. What has come into being? Provincial. This part became operative. This part became operative. We will see when. Okay? Then bicameralism in 6 out of 11 provinces. Bicameralism. Total 11 British provinces were there. In that 6 provinces, bicameralism. Now you tell me, in how many provinces there are bicameralism? In how many states there is a bicameralism? Tell me. This could be your prelims. Yes. So now also 6 out of 28 states there are bicameralism. Andhra Pradesh, your Karnataka, Telangana. This is also important piece you should know for prelims. Andhra Pradesh, Karnataka, Telangana, UP, Bihar and Maharashtra. Tamil Nadu it was there. But in 1986 only, they made it again unicameralism, right? Because there is a provision, you can create legislative council, you can abolish also. There is a provision. So now currently we have 6 out of 28 states where bicameralism is there. So bicameralism was started in 6 out of 11 provinces, and those were during 1935, which one? Bengal, Bombay, Madras. Anyway, these 3 are the important only, you can easily remember, right? Because these 3 important only. Then Bihar, Assam, United Province. See, that time Assam was a very big province. The entire northeast was basically Assam. Meghalaya, Manipur, Tripura, all came out of Assam. Nagaland, all came out of Assam. So Assam was a very big state at that time. So in Assam, they had bicameralism. So now you can easily relate, right? Bengal, Bombay, Madras, anyway, they were very important. So they were there. Bicameralism was there. Apart from that, Bihar was important, Assam and UP. That time it was called United Province. Now it is called Uttar Pradesh. Right? So anyway, currently also in Uttar Pradesh and your Bihar, it is there. Bicameralism is there. Apart from that, mostly South Indian states, Assam, Karnataka and Telangana, and one is Maharashtra. So you can easily remember, right? These are all neighboring state only. Andhra Pradesh, Karnataka, Telangana and Maharashtra, 4 states are neighboring only, right? And UP, Bihar. So you can, you can see, make some kind of linking, and you can easily remember. You can very easily remember. But you have to, don't go for ratification. Don't go for rote learning. Link it. Like how will I remember these 6 provinces? I can easily remember Bengal, Bombay, Madras, they were so very important, they will be there. How will I remember this? Bihar and Uttar Pradesh, yes, they are very most populous state, sorry. So they will be there, you can relate. And currently also it is there. Then Assam, you can remember Assam was a very big state. All these northeast state, they had come out of Assam only. Earlier, those were part of Assam. So it was a big, so it will be there. Like that you can relate. So if you know the reason, you can easily relate and you can remember. See, these are small mnemonics to improve your memory. You can remember. And now currently there are 3 though they are southern state only, along with Maharashtra, which borders with the southern state, and UP, Bihar, the same. Right? Tamil Nadu it was there, but currently it is not there. Then it further extended the principle of communal award by providing separate electorate, and they further provided separate electorate. For whom? See, they extended to depressed class, scheduled caste. So though Pune Pact was there, they said, no, we don't want a separate electorate, but this scheme still mentioned. Though Pune Pact happened and they said, no, depressed class will not have the separate electorate, they will have the reservation, right? But in spite of this Government of India Act 1935, anyway, it was created by the Britishers, right? So whatever the Britishers they wanted, they will put it, those things in that act. So separate electorate was extended to depressed class, scheduled caste, even for women and labor class. So women will vote only for women. Labor class will vote only for the labor class. You see, it's very difficult, right? How to identify it, who is a labor class and all this. It's very difficult. But anyway, it was not in universal adult franchise like we have. Very, limited franchise was given. Then what they did? They abolished the Council of India established by the Government of India Act 1858. The Council of India was abolished, and what the Secretary of State for India was provided with a team of advisor. So they had created one Council of India, right? Secretary of State was given some 15-member council to advise him. So now that was abolished and a team of advisor was given, but not a proper council. So now they slowly reduce. What does it mean? What does it signify? It signify that Secretary of State work was deburdening. Less and less work was given. And anyway Indian Commissioner for Indian High Commissioner was set up in London, right? Some of the function was given to that body, and in which the representative of Indians will also be there and British will also be there, but it will be in London. Dada Bhai Naroji was a very big factor. He have worked really so much in this Indian High Commissioner in London for the benefit of Indians. So this is how it happened. What it did, it extended the franchise. Franchise was extended, means it was based on property rights and all, right? Like property, tax, education. So earlier it was very higher threshold. Now they decreased it. Like for example, earlier maybe all MA people only they can, those who have master degree only they can vote. Those who have paid this much of property, they will only vote. So now they little bit extended. They lower down the qualification criteria, right? So they extended the franchise. But it was again not universal adult franchise. Remember that. Then important feature was of this act was Reserve Bank of India was set up. RBI Act 1934. It was set up in 1934 and then finally came into being in 1935. Forged in 1935. Okay. So RBI, Reserve Bank of India, to manage the currency and all. So you see, whatever we see now, lot of thing was established during 1935 Act or mentioned in 1935 Act, isn't it? Important thing. Then Federal Public Service Commission, UPSC, now it is currently UPSC, Federal Public Service Commission for the, basically for the entire center and state, Federal Public Service Commission. Then they also talked about Provincial Public Service Commission, like you have the KPSC, State Public Service Commission, right? So Provincial Service Commission, also Joint Public Service Commission. Currently also we have Joint Public Service Commission, isn't it? So now we have the Federal Public Service Commission in the name of UPSC, Provincial Public Service Commission in the name of State Public Service Commission, and then Joint Public Service Commission is also there. Then they set up what? Supreme Court. Federal Court, which is currently your Supreme Court, set up in 1937. So earlier it was Supreme Court they had set up where? In Kolkata. Remember that? The Regulating Act, the first Regulating Act, 1773, only called for the establishment of Supreme Court in Kolkata, right? That time it was Calcutta, now it is Kolkata. But now it is in Delhi. Right, in 1937, they told for establishment of Federal Court, which later on became Supreme Court of India. Because now everything they were shifting towards Delhi. Because since 1911, Delhi became their capital. But still, Federal Public Service Commission, they established in 1926, but first time it was set up in Allahabad, Prayagraj. That's why Prayagraj is a very big hub for the preparation of UPSC. Before Delhi becoming a big hub, already Prayagraj was the big hub for preparing for the UPSC. When UPSC went to Delhi, then Delhi became the hub. Because earlier it was in Prayagraj only. And in South India, you have Hyderabad, a major hub for preparing for UPSC. Now, probably Bangalore could become another big hub, beating Hyderabad. But as of now, also Delhi is the one big center. Prayagraj still it is there, a big center for particularly UP and Bihar people. Very important center for preparing for UPSC. And then you have Hyderabad in southern states. Now Bangalore is catching up very fast because lot of institutions, educational institutions are there, and it's a very good ecosystem in Bangalore. Bangalore is a very good ecosystem, and lot of IT companies are there. So IT people also they prepare, for UPSC. So probably Bangalore can become another big hub for South India. So I hope you got, there are a lot of points in Government of India Act 1935 and they are very important from the prelims point of view and also mains point of view. As I told you already, they had asked question in mains and prelims they had been asking. So just revise it. Let's failed. Alright, so we were, yeah. So let's revise Government of India Act 1935. All the points are very, very important. The first important point, that is, it talked about the All India Federation in which the British provinces and princely states should join, but it never came into being. Why? Because princely state did not join, right? And also because immediately 3-4 years after this World War II started, right? Then it divided into 3 lists: the federal list, provincial list and concurrent list. Residuary power was given to the viceroy. As I told you, currently it is with the center under Article 248. Then it abolished diarchy. It replaced with what? Provincial autonomy. And this provincial autonomy came into effect in 1937. When the election happened in 1937, the provincial autonomy came into effect, but it remained only till 1939. So only 2 years of, we can say, there was a provincial government based on provincial autonomy, because in 1939 the Congress resigned. Why? Because in protest against the Britishers, without consulting the Indians, they made India to the party of World War II. Because they were there in India, right? So Britain was already in the war. Entire Europe was already in the war, and they made India also party to the war, because they thought India is nothing but our private state, isn't it? Something which is our state, we can decide for India. So obviously people were not happy. Without consulting Indian, how can you make India to be the party of war? So to against that, the Congress ministry in the provinces, they protested and they resigned, right? So at least, yeah, 2 years of experience they had of provincial autonomy. It was implemented. Then diarchy at the center, again it didn't come into being, though they had mentioned, but it did not come into being. Bicameralism in 6 out of 11 provinces: Bengal, Bombay, Madras, Bihar, Assam and United Province. Currently we have discussed how many they are there. It further extended the principle of communal representation, and even women and labor class they got separate electorate. Then it abolished the Council of India established by the Government of India Act 1858. Secretary of State of India was provided with a team of advisor. It extended the franchise, means now at least some 10% of the people they could vote. Earlier it was even less. Reserve Bank of India was set up. It talked about Federal Public Service Commission, provincial as well as Joint Public Service Commission, and also it talked about the Federal Court, which was set up in 1937, and currently it is what? Your Supreme Court. Fine. Next. So after 1935 Act, what was the, I'll give you again the background. After 1935 Act, provincial election happened, and in 1937 in the provinces the ministries were formed which worked as per the provincial autonomy. 1939 they resigned because of the World War, and British unilaterally including India or making India to be the party of war, which was not liked by the Indians. And then there was 1942. In 1942 there was Quit India movement. Before that, Cripps mission came to India. Cripps mission came to India. Cripps mission came to India to basically get the support of Indians. And then Indians demanded that you leave our country, and what you do? You give us the total power. You hand over the power to us. Okay? And the Indians also demanded that we want to frame the Indian constitution as per our own will. You will not kind of interfere in that. So basically they wanted constitutions to be framed only by Indians, and immediately the Congress demanded that power, some form of power you give to Indians, including army power, you give it to us, because we want to defend our country, because Britain was already facing lot of problems because of Germany was, Britain was defeated, France was defeated, many European power was defeated by Germany, and here Japan was coming near to India, which were part of the Axis power, right? There was one allied power in which Britain, France, US, they were a part of allied power. Axis power, where you have Germany, Japan, these were the part of your Axis power. So obviously the Indian government or Indians were very much worried. Indian National Congress, they told that no, immediately you give us some power, including army power to us. We will defend our country. And also Indians will frame the constitution, and it will be framed only by Indians. So, but the Cripps mission, what they gave them, they said, okay, fine, you frame the constitution, but after the war ended. And also they did not give the army power to Indians. So that's why they were frustrated. Now they said, no, why you are telling after the war? You don't have any rights because you are crashing. It was said that, Gandhiji said that it was like Cripps mission proposal was like post-dated check of a crashing bank. You know what is post-dated check? That you will get the amount later on, and already the bank is crashing. So will you accept a post-dated check of a crashing bank? No, because you know this bank is already going bankrupt, and they are giving post-dated check. What will I do to that check? So that's why they termed it as a post-dated check of a crashing bank, and they rejected the Cripps proposals. They were not happy. And in response to that, what they called for Quit India movement, 1942. Quit India movement came into being, right? Quit India movement was resorted. And after that, obviously, there was no looking back. There was protest after protest, protest after protest. And finally, the British has to, declare, okay, fine, we will give you the independence. So after this Cripps mission in 1946, cabinet mission was sent. Cabinet mission was sent in 1946, March. It was in the month of March. Cabinet mission was set. Cabinet mission was sent in when? In March 1946. So this cabinet mission, by this time already the war has ended, and before that INA trial, Royal Indian Navy trial happened, that you will be studying more detail in history. So now Britishers, they came to know we cannot continue our rule, we have to give them the independence. So they said, okay, fine. The cabinet mission was sent. Cabinet mission, what they did, they told, okay, fine, you frame your constitution. And cabinet mission rejected two-nation theory. They said, no, there won't be any two constituent assembly, there will be only one constituent assembly, which will frame the constitution. So they rejected, directly they rejected the idea of Pakistan, but indirectly they gave the idea of Pakistan. So what they did, they told that there were three groupings, A, B, C. Now A was the grouping, if I have to draw Indian maps, see, I am very bad at drawing Indian maps, so please pardon me. Right. So this part is your Bangladesh, right? This will come in the C category, C. This B and this part A, which is the Pakistan. So that is what the Pakistan wanted, right? Pakistan wanted those areas which are Muslim majority area. So Bangladesh side there was Muslim majority area, and Pakistan side was the Muslim majority. So the cabinet mission, what they did, they told, okay, fine, there is no two constituent assembly, there will be one constituent assembly. But they made the grouping A, B, C. So what currently we have the B part, right? So they told that in 10 years, if people want to come out of that groupings, they can come out and they can form their own separate entity like that. So obviously Pakistan was thinking that, or Muslim League was thinking that we got our Pakistan. But Nehru said that there is no Pakistan, nothing. No, whatever the Constituent Assembly will decide, that will be full and final, and nobody can come out of any groupings. And this grouping is only temporary based. The grouping is only temporary based. It will be dissolved. That is what the Nehru said. And after listening to that, Jinnah became very, very furious. As I said you, March 1946, this was said, cabinet mission was sent, and there was August, 16th August, it was called Direct Action Day, and 2nd September, interim government was set up. Interim government headed by Nehru was set up. So this Direct Action Day was basically nothing but Jinnah called for, full violence. He said that we will snatch our Pakistan. We will fight and take our Pakistan. लड़के लेंगे but Pakistan लेके रहेंगे. means we will fight for our Pakistan. And there was communal riot started. That is called direct action. So you should know the sequence very well. Cabinet mission, March 1946, 16th August, direct action day. So communal violence started. And 2nd September, obviously in the midst of the communal violence, interim government was set up, because Nehru said that no, you have to give us some power immediately to control this violence. So Britishers said, okay, fine. So interim government, without any election, some kind of interim government was set up, headed by Nehru as the interim prime minister. Interim means temporary. Interim means makeshift arrangement, temporary. Headed by interim prime minister, that is Jawaharlal Nehru. But finally, there was no letting down of Jinnah. He said, no, I will take my Pakistan, whatever will happen. I don't bother. But in November 1946, Constituent Assembly was set up. November 1946. 9th December, the work started. The first meeting of Constituent Assembly, 1946. We are seeing all this 1946. Right? November 1946, Constituent Assembly was set up, and 9th December, first meeting of Constituent Assembly happened. But communal riots was going on. Communal riots was going on. Then 20th February 1947, Clement Attlee, who was the Prime Minister of Britain, he made an announcement. He made an announcement because why he made an announcement? He thought that if we make an announcement, immediately this India people, I mean the INC, Indian National Congress, and Muslim League will come to some kind of conclusion. So what he said, that 30th June 1948, we will give you the independence. So basically date was fixed so that they thought ki these people will come to some kind of conclusion and they will frame the constitution. And the Britishers, they wanted to run away. So imagine 1 year before only they gave independence and went away. Imagine the kind of situation India was. It was like a volcanic eruptions, right? Every day riots, every day bloodbath was happening. And they did not wanted to take that responsibility, and 1 year before only they left. Because Jinnah was adamant. Muslim League, particularly Jinnah, was very adamant. Then 3rd June plan. 3rd June plan. So this 20th February 1947, whatever the Clement Attlee made the announcement, and he said that Lord Wavell, he was the Governor General, he was called off, and Mountbatten was sent. Lord Mountbatten, the last Governor General of India, he was sent to India to resolve the issues, because Lord Wavell, actually if you read history, he created lot of problem for India, and he given Muslim League a kind of a full say. He always prioritized Muslim League over the Indian National Congress, isn't it? You are giving more power to minorities to decide everything. So obviously they will become adamant. You are giving so much of power. They will throw tantrums. They will, abuse their power. Because Lord Wavell gave a lot of power to Muslim League basically. And that is why Jinnah was important. Before that also they gave a lot of power to Muslim League. From 1940 onwards only, if you see, more and more, they favored more and more Muslim League. But cabinet mission plan, they told no, we will not give two Constituent Assembly, but we will give only one. But somewhere they made the provision, which the Pakistani people, or sorry, not the Pakistani, Muslim League, they thought that no, they can dream of Pakistan, because after 10 years they can come out of the grouping and they can form their own entity. But after Nehru saying that this grouping is not compulsory, Jinnah became very furious. They told that no. If India will become independent, governed by the Indian National Congress, we will not get our Pakistan. So he made all the havoc, he created all the havoc that before the Britishers leave, they should give their Pakistan. That is what they said. You go. I mean, they were not bothered about independence anymore. They were bothered only about the Pakistan. They told that we don't mind you be there or you don't there. If you are living, before that you create Pakistan and go. Because they knew that if they leave India and power will come under the INC, they will not give us our Pakistan. So this is how the whole situation. And Mountbatten, he declared this 3rd June plan, also called as Dicky Bird plan. Dicky Bird plan. He was called as Dicky Bird plan, or Mountbatten plan, or 3rd June plan. And they said, what was the 3rd June plan? That they are giving independence not in 30th June 1948 but 15th August 1947. See, immediately, see, 3rd June 1947, they made the plan, and 15th, just after 2 months, you see, they have to give it, because the situation was so terrible. They told, okay, fine, 3rd June plan was basically a partition plan. 3rd June plan was also a partition plan. They told, okay, fine, A and C, the groupings, they will become part of the East and West Pakistan. Pakistan is given. And the middle part will be with Indians. And they told that they will, 2 constituent assembly will be there. And before that, leaving India, they passed what? Indian Independence Act. And this was the last act under the British. Got the point? Yes. So Indian Independence Act, what did it do? It ended the British rule in India. It ended British rule in India, provided for the partition of India, abolished the office of Viceroy, empowered the Constituent Assembly to frame the constitution and frame legislation. So Constituent Assembly will do 2 work. One, they will frame the constitution, and also they will make laws. Means it will work like a parliament also. Okay? Then it abolished the office of the Secretary of State, because anyway these things are not anymore required. It proclaimed the lapse of British paramountcy over Indian princely states. So princely states also now they are free. Earlier they were under the British paramountcy. Now they are totally free. Either they want to join India, Pakistan, or remain independent, right? And treaty relations with tribal area, because some treaty was there with the tribal area, because tribals area, they have a very distinct culture, right? So the Britishers made certain treaties with them, and these all treaty also lapsed with Indian Independence Act 1947, right? Then it granted freedom to the Indian princely states, governance on the basis of Government of India Act 1935. So till the new constitution would be framed, the governance will be carried on the basis of which act? 1935 Act. Till the new constitutions are framed. It deprived the British veto bill or asked certain bills for his approval. So obviously now the Britishers, they lost all the power. So now no need to the British government was not given any veto power. Earlier they had the veto power. Veto power means even if it will be passed by the Government of India, like 1935 Act and 1919 Act, they were called as Government of India Act, right? So any law passed in India, they can be vetoed by the British government. Vetoed means withholding. So now Anyway, India is going to become an independent country, so no veto bill. They cannot veto. British government cannot veto. Then Governor General of India and provincial government as constitutional nominal heads. Now what they said, that the Governor General and the governors, they will become what? Nominal head. Nominal head. Why nominal head? Because now they will be totally responsible government. Responsible government, and these people, they have to act and advise on the Council of Ministers, right? So they will only be the nominal head, not the real head. Real head will be the elected government, right? And then it dropped the title of Emperor of India from the King of England. So England will, the King of England will no more the King of India. And it discontinued the appointment to civil services and reservation of posts. So anyway, now the independent India, they will recruit the people. But yes, who were there, who were already there, civil servant, their terms and condition will be same till they retire. The way they were being appointed with whatever salaries or whatever the things, whatever power, it will remain. The only thing is that they have to work under the Indian government. So if they don't want, they can voluntarily resign. So many British officials, particularly the British people who were the part of the Indian civil service, they resigned and they went away. They didn't want to work under the Indian ministers, right? So these were the provisions of Indian Independence Act 1947. So with this, we have completed the entire, evolution of the constitution pre-independence. Before independence, how the constitution has evolved. And when you see our current constitution, you see a lot of things were inspired by the earlier act during the British, particularly 1935 Act. Lot of provision, as I said you, around 60 to 70% of the Indian constitution, they are the literal copy of Government of India Act 1935. Fine. So now we have some time, so we'll move towards the next topic, that is making of Indian Constitution, how the Indian Constitution has been made. So we have already seen that the under the Cabinet Mission Plan, the Constituent Assembly was set up, and November 1946 it was set up, and 9th December 1946 the first meeting happened. So these are the important issues, or we will see how before making of the constitutions, when it was demanded and why it was demanded. So you see the demand of Constituent Assembly. Constituent Assembly will be the one who will frame Constitution of Free India. So the demand was made for the first time in 1934 by M.N. Roy. He was a leader of communist movement in India, leftist movement in India. And he for the first time demanded for there should be a Constituent Assembly which will frame Constitution of Free India, or it will frame Constitution for India and not the Britishers. Then in 1938, officially the Congress demanded that yes, we should have the Constituent Assembly. 1940, August of first time it was accepted. Okay, fine, we will give you the Constituent Assembly where mainly Indian will frame the constitution. So obviously the Indian people, they did not like, why mainly Indian? We want only Indian. We want only Indian. So, but anyway, in 1940, the Britishers accepted and it was called as August Offer. Then 1942, Sir Stafford Cripps came, the Cripps mission came. They told, okay, fine, Indians will frame only, but after Second World War, I mean after the completion of the war. Now in the mid of the ground, how can we? But then Indian demanded immediately. They were not, they wanted to get rid of the Britishers. Because the situation they were seeing, you know, the way the Britishers were treating Indians, they were not happy that they want full control. So even this Stafford Cripps proposals was rejected and Quit India movement was launched. Then Cripps proposals was also rejected by the Muslim League because INC anyway rejected it, Indian National Congress rejected, but even Muslim League rejected because they had nothing talked about Pakistan there. So obviously they rejected it. Then finally cabinet mission was sent in your 1946, right? March 1946, the cabinet mission was sent. And on that basis, the constituent assembly was set up, right? So we'll see how the constituent assembly, what was the composition of the assembly. Till here clear? The chronology of the event? Yes. The composition of the constituent assembly. So the constituent assembly constituted in November 1946. How many numbers? Total strength of the constituent assembly, how many? 389. Right, 296 British Indian and 93 for princely states, right? British provinces 296 and for princely state 93 seats were allocated. And this in 296 seat will be allocated among the 11 British provinces and 4 governors, 11 governors provinces and 4 chief commissioner provinces. So you no need to remember so much for that. Just you have to remember that. It was for the British provinces. How many total seats? 296. Then proportional representation. How the elections will be done or how the seat was allocated on the basis of population. Roughly 1 seat for 1 million population, right? So on the basis of the population, the seats were allocated. So now you can say it was some 389, means 389 into 1 million, you do 389 millions were there, right? So we are talking about the population of current Pakistan and Bangladesh also, not only India. Okay. And British India, how the seat was allocated among the 3 principal communities: Muslim, Sikh and general. All other population, general, Muslim and Sikh. As per their population, the seats were allocated. Like if 50% Muslim means, or not 50%, if suppose 20% or 30% Muslim, 30% of the seats will be given to Muslim. If 10% Sikh, 10% of the will be given to the Sikh, right? Because even Sikh, they were quite good number earlier, but there were many Sikh which became part of your Pakistan, and later on you know how much communal riots happened because of that. Particularly the communal riot happened more in, that's what, like East Bangladesh and East Pakistan as well in West Pakistan. So with the East Pakistan, because there was Sikh population nearby Punjab, right? And East Pakistan, the more Bengali population, Hindu Bengali and Muslim Bengali. That is how the communal riots happened. And West Pakistan, you have the Hindu Punjabi and Muslim Punjabi. I mean the Sikh and the your Sikh Punjabi and the Muslims. There were the riots happened. Punjabi language was common, but there were Sikh Punjabi and Muslim Punjabi. Language same, they used to speak. Now also if you go to Pakistan, Punjabi language is their main language, particularly this area near to Punjab and all, and they are the most powerful political leaders. You would have heard about, if you would have read the newspaper also, there is one Baluchistan region which is near to the Iran border, and these Baluchi people, they are also Muslim, right? And this side also population, they are Muslim, but there is lot of problems between the Baluchi people and the people near to this Punjab, because it is said that more political clout or more political power is held by whom? Punjabi Muslims. So that's why these Baluchistan people, they always feel alienated. Similar way when, you know, East Pakistan was there, which is currently Bangladesh. So what was the problem? Problem was language. You see, they created a country on the basis of religion, but religion was not a uniting factor. Had it been a uniting factor, they would have remained same or not. East Pakistan, West Pakistan. But language, religion is not a uniting factor. In fact, language became a uniting factor, isn't it? Because these Punjabi Muslims and Bengali Muslims, they were totally different in their culture. The religion was same. Language, culture, I mean food habits. So culture is not only religion. Language, food habits, dress, and these all things are also determined by what? Geographical factors. Isn't it or not? So you cannot say there is one factor. See, these people, they took the, they made India partitioned on the basis of religion. But then religion was not a uniting factor, isn't it? There are other factors became more important. Language, food habits, dress habit. Isn't it? So it is very different in the between two Pakistan, which is anyway currently it is Bangladesh. So how the representation happened? The population representation, particularly every million population, one seat would be allocated. And in the British India, how the seat will be allocated among the communities? Muslim, Sikh and general. So all other except Muslim and Sikh, they will become part of the general population, right? And it will be on the basis of the proportion of the population of Muslim, Sikh and general people. Then the representatives of each community were to be elected by the members of that community only, means separate electorate was there. Remember that. It based on what? Separate electorate. If the question come, see, some kind of question will come analytical basis, as I told you. Some they will give you completely factual, but some they analytical. You may not remember whether it was based on separate electorate or not, but then it was based on separate electorate, because the representative of each community were to be elected by the members of that community in provincial legislative assembly. What does it mean? The election was indirect, not direct. The election was what? Indirect. Again, this statement can come whether there was a direct election. Direct election means directly by the people, right? Indirectly means by people representative, isn't it? People's representative means first they will send it to provincial legislative council, and provincial legislative council people will elect the people for constituent assembly. Indirect election, the same manner as currently it is followed in Rajya Sabha. Rajya Sabha, there is indirect election or not? Indirect. It is sent by whom? From the provincial legislature only, isn't it? People from Karnataka Legislative Assembly, they will send it to Rajya Sabha. Similar way, Tamil Nadu and Maharashtra and so on. They will send from where? From the provincial legislative, right? Indirect election, same manner as it happens in Rajya Sabha election. Similar kind of. But there was a separate electorate, now there is no separate electorate. That is the difference. So same method as it is followed in Rajya Sabha election, except that separate electorate. Representative of each community were to be elected by the members of that particular community in the provincial legislative assembly, and the voting was by method of proportional representation by means of single transferable vote. So this method was adopted, which is also the method currently we adopt for Rajya Sabha election and also for the election of president. This proportional representation and single transferable vote. I will do in detail what the concept is when I will do the president. Okay, so remember each and every bit is very important. They have asked question from here. They have asked question. The representatives of the princely states were to be nominated. Again, nominated by the heads of princely state. Right? So, indirect election and nomination. This was the method on the basis like how the members were being selected for the constituent assembly. Princely state, it was no election, but it was through nomination. Isn't it or not? For provinces, it was through the election, but indirect election. Remember these points they had already asked in your prelims. So it was partly elected and partly nominated. If the question, if the statement come, all the members were elected, then what will you say, whether the statement is correct or not? No, because it was partly elected and partly nominated. Secondly, if the statement come, all the members of constituent assembly were directly elected, whether the statement is correct or not? Wrong, because they were indirectly elected. So these small thing you have to keep in mind, because that is how the statement they will give you. They will give you all the members of constituent assembly were directly elected. So it is wrong statement. Indirect election happened. They will say all the members were elected. That is also wrong. Why? Because some members were elected, some were nominated. So it was partly elected and partly nominated, and election was also what? Indirect. Clear till here? Then on the basis of the cabinet mission plan, election happened in this July-August month in 1946, and out of 296 seat, 208 belongs to INC, means Indian National Congress. They won. They have showcased that we are the one who are the major voice of the people. But in the Muslim region, particularly the group A and group C, from there Muslim people, Muslim League own much. That is what they got emboldened, that in India we have not come. Indian region they were there, Muslim League were there, but we have not been selected much. But we were elected much from where? A part of the grouping and C part of the grouping. So that shows that yes, the Muslim League were influential there. Isn't it? They were influential in the part A and part C of the state. Isn't it or not? So that emboldened them that no, we have to, because the election result happened in this July and August. As I told you, direct action day, when it came? See, July and August. So that's why the Muslim League also became very infuriated. 16th August, direct action day. So immediately the result came, and by the result also they were, they become really more alert that no chance in India. We have to get our Pakistan if we want to rule. Because Muslim League in the Indian region, the B part of the region, they did not perform well. Then 93 seats were allotted to princely states which were not filled, as they declined or they stayed away from constituent assembly. So they did not participate. They did not send their nomination there. Later on they participated, but initially they did not send any members. They did not participate. So the assembly comprised of representative of all the section. If you see the assembly representation, all the sections like Hindus, Muslims, Sikh, Parsi, Anglo-Indians, Christians, scheduled castes, scheduled tribes, including women, all they were represented. The only thing is that the Muslims became more cautious because they thought that their number has come mostly from the A part of the groupings or C part of the grouping, not from the B part. But otherwise, they were there 70, around 73 seats they had. Right. And 208 majority you can say INC, because INC was the one, see it is not a political, it was not a political body. When it was set up, it was not a political body, it was a movement. Indian National Congress was a movement, nationalist movement, isn't it? Because that was the only organization which was created, right? Later on other political parties were formed. But obviously people had faith more in the INC because it was not a political party, but it was more a movement where people joined more and people had more faith. So except Mahatma Gandhi, all the major leaders, all the major freedom fighters, or all the major leaders, they were the part of the Constituent Assembly. Because Mahatma Gandhi did not fight for election. He didn't want any political office. And he was busy consoling the people who were, or the victims of communal riot. Consoling the people or the victims of communal riots. He was busy there. And he never wanted any political office. And moreover, he was quite old also. But still, even many people, they will be old. I don't want to name that political leader, quite old, but then he dreamt of becoming Prime Minister. And he always thought that his name will find for the ministerial candidate. So they were there, even the old people, 80 plus also. So in that way, you can say, fine, like, you can say that Mahatma Gandhi never wanted that political post. Because he was, popular without any political post. He didn't want to get into politics. He got so much of love. So he didn't want that kind of, because once you enter the politics, things become dirty, isn't it? Everybody knows that. So he was happy with the kind of popularity he had and the kind of love people were showering on him, isn't it? So he was not dependent on any political party. He was already a most popular leader. So, all right, so we'll continue tomorrow from here. I hope till here you got the clarity. Please go and revise. And as I have told you, there are certain areas you have to focus more. Be clear about these wordings and all, because that is how the questions been asked. And when we'll solve, you will come to know. Okay, all the best.